Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. It's great to see you all here today. Let's give another 30 minutes for participants to log in. We'd love to see where you're joining us from, so please type in your location in the comments. Yes, participants are pouring in. Let's give us another 10 seconds. Hey, welcome everyone to today's LinkedIn live session. Everest Group partnered with NASSCOM for the NASSCOM GCC Awards 2025, which concluded earlier in April. It's been our endeavor to bring the key learnings and best practices from the award winners with rest of the industry. Today's session is second in the series of 4 LinkedIn live sessions. We covered innovation as a theme in the first session, and we will cover leadership and value creation in subsequent sessions in the few weeks going forward. Today's theme is around one of the critical pillars of India's GCC success story, and all the more important in current times, building talent. We would love to hear your comments and questions as we go along, so please type them in and we would address them during the discussion or during the Q&A towards the end. This is meant to be highly interactive, so we will move back and forth between speakers and take your questions as we go along, if possible. As a quick introduction, I'm Ashish Sehdev, Vice President with Everest Group, and lead our business in Asia-Pac region, where we support leaders from enterprises, tech and service providers, as well as investors to make better decisions. I'm joined today by an esteemed set of panelists and the winners of NASSCOM Award category Building Talent. Let me invite the panelists to introduce themselves one by one, also talk a little bit about their GCC and their role within the GCC. So, Amit, I have you first up on my screen, so over to you.
Thank you very much, Ashish. Hello to all the fellow panelists on LinkedIn Live today, and good afternoon, good morning to everyone who's joined us from wherever you are. I'm Amit Devesh. I lead HR for Optum in India. At Optum, we are a United Health Group company, which is a global leader in healthcare services and benefits. And in India, we operate as a global capabilities center with a very large and distributed workforce across different locations, and they are engaged in providing a very broad range of healthcare operations, technology, and business services to our customers, stakeholders, and members across a very wide range of consuming segments that are global in their footprint. Looking forward to this interaction.
Welcome, Amit. Anish?
Thank you, Ashish, and a very good morning to everyone. I'm Anish, and I lead both the GCC and BPM initiatives at NASSCOM. I would begin by thanking the entire Everest team, who are our strategic partner for the 2025 session of this GCC Awards that we conducted and concluded in April. I think it saw wide participation across different GCCs, and we tried to bring in a lot of robustness and objectivity to the entire process, which I'm sure Ashish is going to touch upon more. But a big congratulations to all the winners here. And I think the objective of today's session is that we learn and share from each other's experiences. So looking forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Anish. Harpreet?
Thanks, Ashish. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for joining the panel, and thanks for joining as attendees as well. I'm really glad to be a part of this esteemed panel. I'm looking forward to the conversation. As far as my role goes, I lead the GCC here in India, the Poland Global Hub, as well as the Enterprise Transformation Office for GSK. For those who don't know GSK is a global biopharma company. We have been in India for over 100 years now as a commercial business, although GCC came into existence in the last 4 years, 4.5 years. And since then, we have seen significant growth, both in terms of value as well in terms of the work that we do here at GSK. Looking forward to discussion today. Over to you, Ashish.
Welcome, Harpreet. Sharda.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish, and very pleased to be a part of this forum. And thanks to NASCOM Everest for having received the award in April. And it is my pleasure to be here at this event today. I have been in the industry for over 3 decades, been a part on the other side of the table where I was working with a technology service provider and with Voya India now over the last 4 years. Voya India is the global delivery and capability center for Voya Financial, which is a US based retirement, investment, and insurance and wealth management organization. And the India operations deliver very critical technology services and business operations for Voya's global product lines and customer solutions. And we have been in existence. I would say that we actually were a joint venture in the beginning of our journey here at India. And in August 2023, we came out of the joint venture. We are an independent autonomous organization and a 100% subsidiary of Voya Financials. And thereon, it's been a very independent journey for us as an organization, which is Voya India. And happy to be here today.
Thanks. Welcome, all of you once again. So let's dive in, and let me invite Sharda for this. Sharda, you've been around in the industry for a while. You've seen organizations evolving and the industry evolve to where we are today. How are you seeing the talent development landscape evolving, especially within the GCCs in India, and what emerging trends are shaping this transformation?
Yeah, we have been, and today I see a lot of people joining us from Bangalore, Pune, and by the way, I'm sitting in Hyderabad today, and we are here to talk to one of our vendor partners, where we are actually looking at the world of AI. And I think that's not a new word, the buzzword in the industry today. But essentially, I would say that India is emerging as the global talent pool for all these disruptive technologies. And if I were to really look at how this whole talent pool is emerging, I think it's in terms of advanced analytics, whether it is in terms of data science, robotics, spatial computing, and what have you. So that's the kind of talent which we see growing in India, and that's the kind of talent which we are also looking for, I would say, in terms of how this whole talent pool can even mature and get to that pace, because we're all talking about agentic AI, we're talking about Gen AI and so on. But where do you get this kind of a skill, a ready skill in the market, right? And therefore, it is all about how do you groom and how do you look at these kinds of talent pool development in the Indian industry itself. And GCCs are today looking at, I would say parent organizations are looking at GCCs as their value hubs. So I think it's beyond cost arbitrage. Cost arbitrage is table stakes today. And I would say that the talent which is emerging out, or the talent which needs to shape up, is all about the future and disruptive technologies which are getting introduced into all of our products, into our R&Ds, into our design and development. And so we at Voya, we are doing a significant amount of investment into the tech talent acquisition and development of skills in AI. We're also looking at a lot of product implementations in the field of agentic AI and so on. So I think innovation has become a part of the DNA of GCCs, and that is where this will all emerge. And that's where, how do we go higher up in the value chain and become more a part of advanced engineering and product development, is going to be the challenge for each one of us. So I would say that that's how it's all shaping up in the Indian industry and in GCCs. And let me add one more thing: is customer at the forefront, customer at the core and center of it all. And therefore, how does this whole talent in the GCC is not just is not looked at only as back office, but it has to be looked at as what is the kind of impact these teams can make to customers, and what's the kind of customer experience and customer impact which this team can bring in. And that's where this will all evolve.
Yeah, no, very rightly said, Sharda. A lot of change, a lot of disruption, and then AI, of course, requires a lot of reskilling, upskilling, and across roles. It's not just about tech roles. Operations roles are going to evolve, and so as everything. So what we did was, of course, there were a lot of questions that we asked the respondents, the GCCs during the award process, and what we did was try to capture some of the key elements and trying to identify where were the Trailblazers GCC different than the rest of the GCCs. What were some of those aspects? So we kind of I have a few slides, Shilpa, if you can bring up. And we'll just talk over some of these key elements. So if you look at when we looked at the data from the award submissions, it was pretty evident that talent development is a critical theme when it comes to the success of the GCC model, and that's what every GCC is doing in some shape or form. Anyways, the core difference lies in the level of investment, execution, and the quantum of benefit. So as we can see, the Trailblazer GCCs were able to provide a double-digit ROI on investments in skilling, reducing cost of rehire, cost of training, cost of paying to search firms, and so on and so forth. We saw there was a difference in operational impact, time to fill roles, productivity, demand fulfillment, and so on and so forth, and also impact on some of the business metrics around employee experience, retention, leadership, diversity, and so on and so forth. So these are fairly evident. Next slide, Shilpa. Yeah, let me just. Yeah. So if you look at once we look at the impact of skilling programs on strategic objectives, again, Trailblazer firms have a median score of 6.8, whereas the other GBS firms lag behind Trailblazers in all aspects of impact. So if you see across all areas that we saw, there is a clear distinction. The biggest gap between Trailblazers and other GCC firms was seen in expanding the GCC services portfolio and how skilling helps in building cross-functional capability, project readiness for the GCCs to take on not just scale but more complex work, more high impacting work. So that was something that was very evident again. Next slide. Shilpa, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we looked at Shilpa, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we looked at what's the role of GCCs in skilling, the Trailblazer GCCs again stood by 4.5x in their ability to play a critical role in enterprise-wide skilling programs by being more involved in skill strategy, co-creating some of the programs, enterprise-wide rollouts. The Trailblazer GCCs were also more effective in playing the leadership role. And if you can see the next slide, we have some more drill down on this metrics. Yeah, so if you see how GCCs are developing its own L&D programs to address the talent needs, that's something which again stood out very clearly, and they had a better impact than GCCs, which were primarily taking programs from the enterprise and then adding some of the additional initiatives on top of those. If you see the next slide, we also have what were the key elements of skilling program design, and this is again very interesting. So GCCs are already interviewing leadership to identify skill gaps, also looking at some of the career paths, the career journey. But again, what truly differentiated some of the trailblazer GCCs were their ability to create a centralized repository of talent, of skills, and updating that periodically, having a taxonomy of skills, not just for the current job roles, but also for future job roles. And that helped in building some of these programs and giving a strategic advantage to these GCCs. So as we see some of uh, the skilling initiatives and programs, there's clear evidence in the fact that they are creating not just impact, but also the separation between the GCCs, which are more evolved, matured, creating more impact than some of the other GCCs. So let me get back into the discussion, and probably have a question for, let's say, I would want to ask Amit here. Amit, so what do you see are some of the more effective approaches for building leadership capacity at mid to senior levels? Of course, again, most firms have these programs in place for a while, but what do you see has been more effective in terms of mid to senior development? Again, in the context that a lot of GCCs are trying to bring more global roles, the mid management and leadership development has been a key challenge voiced by most GCCs. So what are you doing differently in this space?
Thank you very much, Ashish. Great question. And what I'll do is, before I'll just provide some additional context before I share thoughts on this important topic of leadership development from our perspective. See, what we've found in the course of our journey and evolution in India of over 2 decades now is that there are really very few comparable healthcare organizations of the size, scope, and complexity as Optum, and which really implies that if we have to build leadership capacity, which is vitally important to fuel our ambitions for globalization or tech modernization, or even to deliver innovation out of India, like Sharda mentioned, the role that GCCs are increasingly being called upon to play. We won't be able to do that if we go out to the market to acquire healthcare leaders, because there aren't those leaders in the numbers or the caliber that we want to support our growth ambitions. And the approach, therefore, we've found that works most effectively for us is really to take a portfolio view of talent. And what I mean by that is to look at building a layer of future leaders that are drawn from high potentials from across lines of businesses in healthcare or different domains, and really investing in them so that they can be positioned against any significant leadership opportunity that comes up, right, in line with business priorities and business needs there. And that approach actually has been working quite well for us to give us, I think, that future leadership talent that we want for ourselves. Now, what is different about this approach in my experience, and why has it been working well for us? There are a couple of reasons, and I'll sort of just call those out. The first, I think, is the opportunity for leaders to work on real world problems. See, we are a mission driven organization, right? We are looking at making healthcare more affordable, more accessible, and better quality, not just for UHG's members or clinicians or pharmacists or the ecosystem, but for the industry as a whole there. And the challenges, therefore, we throw at emerging leaders really develop them in so many different ways, right? So I think the opportunity to really work on game-changing opportunities, I would say, in the real world is a significant differentiator. The second is, I think, just the opportunity for talent in India to work more globally, right? And that's vitally important. I think in a GCC construct, we operate as one global team, right, in a integrated model, and that allows leaders in India to work alongside their counterparts wherever they might be, in a very tightly linked, very tightly aligned model, and that ensures that leaders in India have a deeper understanding of the business, wherever they might be and whatever domains they might be operating in. And finally, I would say is our internal mobility planning, which ensures that by design, future leaders get an opportunity to experience different parts of the business in a more planned way, in a more intentional way, that helps them to develop an enterprise mindset for solving problems and not just a very functional approach that sometimes leaders fall into the trap of doing. Right. So I think the combination of these factors and a sustained approach in making investments has helped us to create that capacity at mid to senior levels that we want, to develop future healthcare leaders for the industry as a whole.
Right, right. And I mean, so good points that you raised. So one is, of course, the real world problems. That's a very, very good one. It's not just a theoretical training on certain skills or competencies, but then really putting them in real world projects to solve those projects. And so it's more on the job, more real. And then you talked about the global talent and as well as talent mobility. So those were great points. Sharda, what about you in Voya? How are you seeing the leadership development, especially at the mid and senior level? You were on mute, Sharda.
Yeah, just earlier in this discussion, we were talking about what is the kind of talent pool which is available in the market and so on. And I'm also seeing some of the questions which are coming up here is talking about the fact that most of the GCCs are hiring talent only from the market, but it is not absolutely true, I would say, because GCCs which have existed now for, let's say, the last 4 or 5 years, we are looking at, and particularly at Voya India, the way we are looking at is right from your campus, if you're hiring all of these engineers. Thankfully, our retention rate is pretty good today. And therefore, we are looking at having our leaders, future leaders, emerge from within the organization. No point going for all roles which are there in the external from the external market. So we look at various programs which we are developing. So 2-3 aspects of it. Why do we want to look at this mid to senior level leaders from within the organizations? Because one is the cultural aspect of it, which the person understands. They are a part of the organization for a longer period of time. You don't have to begin from ground zero. Number 2 is alignment, stakeholder management, which we have with the parent organization. Those are some of the aspects. And of course, your landscape, your technical landscape, which the people understand, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we believe that we should identify potential leaders. And like as many other companies, you identify your potential leaders within the organization. And therefore, our very high focus is on learning and development programs. I just want to give a glimpse of some of the programs, and our L&D team has various nomenclatures and terminologies which they use for each of these programs. For example, we have something called as Accelerate, which is for building the business unit, which is a training program which runs over several months for business unit leaders. And it also includes some of the functional leaders. We have something called as Emanate. We have something called as the Accelerate for first-time managers. We have something called as Emanate, which is for people managers and so on. We have also developed a program called as Leadership, which is very specifically for the women employees, so that we help them go beyond. And this is also a part of the problem which we as an industry face, that while we hire, we have a population of almost about 40% of our employees are women employees. However, as you go up the ladder, you see that some of that talent goes up, and we want more senior leaders to be women employees, also women leaders also. So therefore, how do you encourage them to stay back? How do you help them and become flexible at some of the things? I think that is absolutely important, and these are some of the things which we are very consciously doing to ensure that the mid-level managers, the senior managers are taken from within the organization. And of course, you have the larger industry. Whenever we are starting new towers and new portfolios, we do look at, like Amit was talking about, being a health organization, and therefore you have to look at that kind of a talent. If we are starting new towers or portfolios, we do look at the market, but not for all positions. We believe in building leaders for the future from within the organization.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sharda. We have a lot of questions pouring in, so that's great. I think let me take one of the questions around AI, since we talked about AI right at the start. So, with AI adoption gaining momentum in GCCs, what shifts do we anticipate in workforce composition, and talent pyramid? Would anyone want to take that?
I can take that, and then maybe some others can add. Harpreet, you can go ahead. I can see
No, no,
Harpreet.
no worries. Go ahead, and then I'll add on.
Yes. No. So as we started, this whole conversation was about, okay, what is talent in the changing world of AI? And I think this whole upskilling, which we are talking about, and this is a very favorite topic which I have with my son usually, saying that, hey, how much are you doing, or how much are you scaling up? And probably, our kids, they. It's good or bad, I don't know, with having parents in the industry, so that we can give them some gyan on some of this. But then it's all about how do the individuals scale up, and how do they start learning about the new ways of working? Because I think not only the composition of the workforce, okay, how are you going to use these tools? And we have been talking a lot about it, saying that, hey, here are the AI tools, but do you even know how to use it? With so many tools which are coming up in the industry, whether you talk about GitHub, whether you talk about UiPath, whether you talk about Copilot, there are multiple kinds of tools which are available. But how does this whole workforce learn to utilize it and make the best, get the best outcomes or the business outcomes into all of this? Uh, See, talent pyramid per se, I wouldn't say that the talent pyramid is going to change. The talent pyramid is going to remain the same. But how do you utilize it and make the best outcomes is going to change.
Did we lose Shardo, or is it just me?
I think she's back.
Hear me? Yeah. Yeah. So the last
Yes.
part, I don't know if you missed that. So the talent pyramid, I don't think is going to change much. But the kind of skill set which this talent pyramid is going to have is definitely going to change, considering the journey in which the whole world is on right now. Over to you,
Yeah.
Harpreet. Yeah.
Any
Thanks.
contradictory or
Yeah,
same?
no, thanks, Radha. I think this is the most pertinent question across all enterprises, not just the GCCs. I think at an enterprise level, what is going to be the workforce composition, if you will? It was interesting you said compensation, but glad that you corrected it to
That
composition.
too.
Yeah, but I think look, I think there is. I do believe that there are going to be shifts, right, in terms of the workforce composition. I do believe that. I mean, there is normally people say that I also believe in that AI is not going to replace humans, but humans who know AI will replace humans who do not know AI. I think that is where the industry is headed in my mind. And I do think that these technology shifts, every time you have a big technology that comes up, right, it goes through the standard curve, the hype cycle. I think we are beyond the hype cycle on AI, generative AI, or agentic AI in general. I think it is real. I think it is coming. It has come. It has landed actually. And I do think that as workforce, as organizations, as GCCs, we all need to continue to invest in this to make our workforce AI relevant, rather than saying that the workforce is going to shift in terms of composition. The composition could be, the pyramid could be whatever you want to call it, but at the end of the day, your entire pyramid has to be AI relevant. And I think the
Right.
programs that enterprises are deploying, including ours, is actually catering to that.
Yeah, thanks,
The
Harpreet.
only
So
point,
talking about
Ashish, I would Yeah,
Sure,
sorry. I
sure,
was just
Amit.
saying the only point I would add, in addition to what Harpreet and Sharda have already mentioned, is that see, while I think thinking about skills, workforce composition, and the tools that enable upskilling on AI are important. I think the challenge of change management is something that cannot be underestimated, right? In embedding an AI culture in the organization, and this is something that organizations generally tend to sort of undermine, at least in the initial stages when you're starting to build capabilities in a new technology area. I think to me, mastering AI technology is something that most organizations will figure sooner rather than later, and they have all the support and help that they need to get it right. But the challenge of change is something only they can help themselves, right? And that has to be thought of at a very early stage, because this is the most disruptive technology, and it will change every facet of work of the workforce.
We lost Hamid, I think. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyways, so one of the things that we are clearly seeing is
And
organizations are
if you have to truly realize the potential that AI has to offer,
Amit, you seem to have gone on mute.
No, I think it's breaking up for Amit.
Yeah, Amit, while you come back, we'll just move
So
on.
Ashish,
So
sorry, I was saying while Amit comes back, maybe I can add a couple of points to the discussion that we were having here. I think,
sure.
one of the clear trends that we are spotting, and which is very much in alignment to what Harpreet and Shada already alluded to, is that we are moving towards a hybrid model where there will always be a human in the loop, but AI will play a equally significant role, and it will have a significant impact on how the work pyramids look in the future, right? And one challenge that the GCCs, as GCCs, we all have to be prepared for is that is going to increase the competition or the talent, the scale of talent that is needed, and which can be, India has a great advantage in terms of the scaling of talent, right? That can also be achieved with a mix of AI from the near shore centers, right? So that competition is going to come and hit us at some point of time with AI taking center stage.
Yeah.
But of course, I think like Harpreet rightly pointed out, it's for us to keep constantly upskilling ourselves, making sure that we are on the top of our game and ahead of the game when it comes to AI adoption and upskilling ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, no, very true, Anish, and not just hybrid. I think it's gonna evolve even the core. So the business models of organizations will evolve. The functions that are delivering value to customers, those will evolve, and so I think that will have a lot of downstream impact. So while on topic of skilling, Anish, I know NASSCOM has been offering a lot of skilling programs and initiatives for the industry. Would love to hear from you as to what is NASSCOM currently providing, what's the strategy, what are some of the big important initiatives that you want to highlight with the industry today?
Yeah, surely, Ashish. So, talent and skilling is a big focus area for NASSCOM, and because at the end of the day, everything that we do in this technology business is centered on humans, right? So, in terms of initiatives, I think from a talent perspective, we look at it in three dimensions. One is the domain skills, the other is, of course, the technology skills, and the third is the more softer skills or the leadership skills that are needed in a GCC kind of a setup, right? So when it comes to domain skills, we are focusing primarily on BFSI and life sciences domains to begin with, because those are the two most prevalent kind of domains and faster growing domains in the current GCC setup. So you will see a lot of programs, and here the attempt is to bring together academia and industry and the government, so that we have programs which help facilitate this campus to corporate programs. Everyone spends a lot of time and effort and money in making sure that the talent which is coming out of campus is industry ready. So we are trying to address it right there at that level, where the curriculums are taken from the industry side, the up to date AI, tech, all kind of the curriculums which the industry needs is kind of feeded into the curriculum of the universities, and the government is making sure that those becomes part of the university credit system and curriculums. So I think that's one big focus area from a domain perspective. Technology, we have platforms like Future Skills platform, which one of our mandate is also to make this growth more inclusive, right? So we want to focus on the emerging hubs, take it to the deeper pockets of the country where the opportunities are lesser, or so the exposure that they get through our FSP platforms. There are courses across the board, both in domain technology and softer skills, which are available on the Future Skills platform. And we also do an assessment which then shows the industry that the talent that they are then looking at from that platform are quite ready for industry. So that's another thing. From a more leadership perspective, and a council perspective, we have leadership master classes going on, where the focus is to cover a broad variety of leadership kind of topics, and make sure that the next gen of the GCC leaders who are coming up the ladders are more prepared and more aware of the challenges ahead and how they need to change their leadership styles to adapt to those new challenges. I think these are 2 or 3 things that we are doing from NASCOM.
And Anish, if
Of
someone
course,
wants to take benefit of these programs, how do they reach out to you or somebody at NASCOM?
so Future Skill program is something that is, which is free for all. As individuals and organizations, you can always sign up on the NASCOM website. You will find all the details, and you can leverage that. We also have a Talent Connect portal, which is open to all our members. And this is more of a platform where we connect the talent to the industry. So you can post all your job openings on that Talent Connect portal, while all the certified candidates who have gone through the FSP courses, their profiles, their resumes would be available on this platform, right? And one more thing that I missed mentioning and we have, because like I said initially, everything that we do has a talent focus. So we have also launched a talent council very recently in the People Summit. And this is one body which will then look across different sectors, be it GCC, BPM or SME, and try to synergize the various initiatives that are going around talent across NASCOM and industry.
Excellent. Some great initiatives, Anish. Thanks. Would encourage the participants and their organizations to leverage these resources. Talking about AI and technology, of course, there's a lot of value in leveraging technology itself for building the learning and development program. So let me ask Harpreet. Harpreet, I know there's lots that you guys are doing in this space. So how do you see GCCs really integrating technology? There's digital learning, AI, ML, automation, gamifying learning experiences, etc. More personalization. So how is your organization looking at embedding or leveraging technology for learning itself?
Well, thanks, Ashish. I think it's an important question, right? Given where we are from a technology standpoint overall, learning is no different. I think if you look at GSK, our purpose is to unite science, technology, and talent to get ahead of the disease together. So if you look at that equation itself, it is science multiplied by tech multiplied by talent. So integrating technology with talent development is by design for us. And we have been at this journey ever since we started the GCC, but by and large at an enterprise level. Some of the examples that come to my mind where we actually integrated technology from a GCC standpoint as well is, as we were coming up to speed very quickly, right, we scaled, we saw significant scale in a short period of time. We realized that we were obviously, acquiring talent from different industries, from different parts of the country, and so on and so forth. We realized that we have to invest a lot on the industry skills itself and getting a better understanding of what GSK is all about, what the life sciences industry is all about. So very quickly, given the digital nature of the talent pool that we have here, we created a solution leveraging virtual reality, which we call as Molecule to Market, which actually within a span of about say 20 to 30 minutes, one can see the shop floor, one can see a wet lab, one can actually see how the commercialization happens. So starting from the molecule to the market, one can actually get a sense of how things work in a GSK context. That has been one of the super hit programs for us. Everybody who comes in and does not belong to say life sciences industry takes a lot of value. Normally it would take people hours of trainings to understand how that happens, and more often than not they will be restricted or only focused on their functional trainings, right? If you are in R&D, you look at R&D specific trainings. If you are in commercial, in supply chain, you look at those specific trainings. But this provides an end-to-end view. Other examples that also come to my mind are, we created some specific digital learning hubs. We call them academies, like Data Academy, AI Academy. And one of the things that we take a lot of pride in is that if you look at just the adoption of these academies from a learning standpoint, the learning agility of the teams here in GCC, we see that it is double as compared to the larger enterprise. We also are very conscious on, we should be measuring our digital engagement score. So how engaged are we digitally at an enterprise level? And another kind of data point for you is that at GCC, we see that we are 1.5 times more engaged digitally as compared to the enterprise. GSK also was very early in adoption of the GenAI digital assistant, which everybody is now talking about. I think that is something that we also latched upon. And again, the people who are leveraging or adoption of this digital agent from a GCC standpoint is way higher than what we see in any other part of the organization. So that's about integrating technology in your way of work, right? It is not something that you would do. The learning, normally people see learning as something that I have to do once I've done my job. But actually, if you make learning as a part of your workflow, then it becomes easier. And one of the things that we do on making it as a part of the workflow is also what we call as gamification. Some of the marquee events that we have, right? So there are a couple of events that come to my mind. One is what we call as Think Tank, where we have, we give global GSK problems. There are 14 cross-geography, cross-functional teams came together last year. We had prototypes coming out of that whole Think Tank initiative. And another one that also comes to my mind is what we call as Data Conference or Data Con. And this is something that actually brings all the data and AI experts together. And this is primarily focused on learning with the context of GSK. So we always want to contextualize the learning part. And that is how we have these global events like DataCon and Think Tank that come through. The last thing that I will also say on this one is we also felt that as a part of your day-to-day job, if you were to bring in the culture of innovation and you want to bring in the culture of learning, you have to have something that kind of yells innovation. So what we ended up doing in GCC is we created an innovation lab, which has an ideation zone where people can come together, which has open collaboration zones, which has experience centers where people can actually look at a solution that they built and go to the experience center and so on and so forth. So I think these are some smaller initiatives that actually help build the DNA, if you will, and change the thought process a little bit around learning as well as around innovation and how those two can be married. So those are some of the ideas that come to my mind, and I don't know if there are more, then I'll come back. But that is what I was going to talk about when it comes to integrating technology with learning.
Yeah, some great points, Harpreet. And are you seeing enough pull? Is it more push, or are you seeing employees really pulling this content and being very active in leveraging these platforms and opportunities for learning?
Yeah, no, the numbers that I shared in terms of the uptick, for example, the number came to my mind, the GenAI digital assistant adoption in GCC is 80%, and it is all pull. or most of it is pull. I would not say all pull, because initially when you launch something, to the point that Amit was making, there is a bit of change management, or not a bit of, a lot of change management that you have to drive. And we are, I run the enterprise transformation office, and one of the pillars is change management. So for us, I think we did change management from the word go, and that was the push that we did. But once it is out there, and once people started seeing value in either the training programs or digital assistants, I think this part of the world is generally curious. At least for our stories, that they are more curious, are coming up to be more curious, and that is why we see adoption where it is.
Excellent. Sharda, what are you doing different at Koya to really integrate technology in the L&D space?
Yeah. So one is, of course, I would align with what Harpreet said in terms of GCCs adopting, because today, if you look at GCCs, one of the biggest questions which is coming up is what is your productivity and what's the kind of automation which you're bringing into the table. And like you rightly said, more than 75% of GCCs have launched AI upskilling programs. And I would say it's both a push and a pull, and it's also about educating your workforce on the necessity to upskill yourselves on some of these. So what we are doing is, of course, we do not separate the technical and leadership learning. So we are synchronizing the behavioral, the technical, and the leadership development together, because it's a bundle package which comes with leadership. It's a bundle package which comes in with the team leads and members who are there as a part of the workforce. So this will give a very holistic growth and prepares them for also global roles. We are, for example, we have also tied up with LinkedIn themselves, where we are running a lot of digital programs. In fact, I'm given access to it for me to undergo some of these trainings, sitting at my desk, and that has been opened up to the entire organization. So we have, from a Gen AI Foundation program, we have trained more than 1,800 employees in Gen AI fundamentals. Agile and digital academies, we have upskilled about 1,700 plus employees in data science, cloud, Salesforce, and so on. And through LinkedIn itself, we have logged about more than 35,000 learning hours. And this was recently introduced, probably 3 months back. But I think people have on their own taken some of these digital programs. They don't need to sit in classroom. These are virtual classrooms, and they are able to do some, upskill themselves digitally. So I think that is a way to go in the future for the industry. And also through these gamification modules, whether it is information security programs, whether it is risk programs, whether it is AI programs, and so on, I think there's a lot of gamification itself which is included into all of these as a part of the structure of the program. And that's how we are engaging our employees on some of these. And I think it gives more of a motivation and performance management to them in terms of how do they undertake all this and go forward.
Yeah, no, that's great, Sharda. I know, Amit, at Optum, you guys are leveraging a lot of external ecosystem, vendors, partners, to really support your talent initiatives. How about at Optum? Do you see more programs being built in-house, or are you seeing more support from external ecosystem? What's working, what's not at Optum?
Yeah, it's both actually, Ashish, and we absolutely acknowledge the value that the ecosystem in India offers, right? And I think we are extremely fortunate that we find ourselves in a very vibrant ecosystem in India that offers fantastic opportunities for specific research on problem statements in newer and emerging technology areas, for upskilling, reskilling the workforces, for product development opportunities. If you want to partner with somebody to mature the product roadmap, and for a variety of other opportunities that are in line with business priorities as such. And very often, I think when we talk about India as an attractive location for GCCs, this is the reason, because it's not just about the talent pool, but it's about the whole ecosystem that you can really offer to global enterprises that work to their competitive advantage, right?
So
We have,
Amit, one
yeah,
of the things we do see, a lot of GCCs are partnering with
yeah,
ecosystems, but again, As you look back last few years across all the partnerships, what's really working, and what are some of your learnings on how to make it more effective? If you can give some examples of some of your
Sure.
initiatives, and what should one watch out for, what will make it successful, maybe that would be a great learning for the audience.
I'll give two examples, I think, where we have leveraged ecosystem partnerships successfully. I think the first is about looking at innovation itself, right? So we are partnered with a few organizations that are helping us to shape our thought process on
Mm.
business priorities like improving user experience and also process efficiency, which is vitally important, right? So there are organizations which bring those capabilities and they are actively shaping proof of concepts for us. And I think what we do is we put all of these proof of concepts together into a mega innovation event that we do every year. And then that feeds into the global innovation pipeline for additional funding support, capital allocation, leadership support, etc., which are vitally important to see innovation through successfully. The second is, I think, upskilling and reskilling of workforce itself. In addition to everything that we do internally, right, we have partnership with the leading engineering institutions in India for postgraduate courses on AI, ML, and data science for those who are interested to go and take it. In addition to the plethora of learning opportunities we offer internally through our Optum Tech University. And these are work study programs, so they're efficient on time, and you can do them alongside the day jobs. Now, to your important question, Ashish, what has been working? What's been our experience? I think what
Mm.
we found is that, especially for partnerships that are designed to leverage the innovation potential of the ecosystem, I think being very clear on the problem statement is extremely important, right? You need to be clear of, if you're expecting a breakthrough thinking, you're expecting a disruptive solution, to a problem. It's important to be clear about what it is that we want to solve for, especially in a very, very complex industry like healthcare, where there are so many interdependencies between regulators, between governments, between players, and of course, the members who need healthcare the most, right? So I think you've got to balance multiple interests to be able to define the problem statement more specifically. And the clearer we are, the more focused we are, the more value we can find, from these partnerships, instead of otherwise losing your way into a whole host of other, solutions and ideas. The second is, I think, in the selection of partners itself, I think we select partners who subscribe to our mission of healthcare transformation, right? So they should share our passion. They should be like-minded, not just players who are interested in, advancing their tech products or solutions. So passion for technology, passion for ideas is important, but being, aligned to the mission of healthcare, and using those technology products or ideas into solving problems is, I think, the most important part for us.
Yeah. Harpreet, how about you at GSK? Again, a lot of initiatives. I know this public, this digital literacy, and you have a lot of programs again. So what has been your key learning, and any specific examples of any unique partnerships with the ecosystem?
Yeah, no, I think Amit, well said by him that there is a lot of value in the ecosystem. We are very closely engaged with the startup ecosystem in this part of the world, and everybody knows that how flourishing the startup ecosystem is. I think what we have leveraged the startup ecosystem for is probably two or three core areas that we were very definitive in our approach in terms of how we want to leverage the startup ecosystem. One is it has to be a win-win, right? So it is not just what works for us, but also what works for startups. I think the other thing was just to, from an innovation standpoint, what are the ideas that startups are bringing in, which we are not even thinking about, and getting that innovative thinking. So in the last year or so, we have engaged with more than 100 startups, which was a mammoth task, right, to understand what the startups are doing. We then identified 20 odd use cases which are very relevant to GSK and which are relevant to the startups as well. We went on and got some of the startups, 18 or odd startups, which actually did a pitch for us, and then which translated into something which is tangible, which we can look and feel in terms of MVPs and POCs and so on and so forth. But I think that is one part, how to drive innovation, how to drive out of the box thinking, what these startups are thinking about, we can learn from them. The second piece that we also looked at was how do we learn from the startups to experiment and fail fast. In an industry like ours, which is very risk averse, we want to make sure that people learn to experiment and learn to fail fast. So we did a lot of sessions with some of these curated startups which came and talked to our people about how did they approach a problem and how did they solve for a problem. So that was the second big ticket item. And then I think the last one was, we did realize very quickly that it is easier said than done. To Amit's earlier point, you have to be very specific about what problems you want to solve. You have to be very specific about what is in it for them and what is in it for you. So you define that very, very clearly, and that is when you are able to engage with startups much better than if you don't do it. So those are some of the things that worked well for us. I will also talk about challenges, but looks like you have a question on that.
Yeah. So Harpreet, the startup partnerships are great. Of course, it's trying to solve problems, look at some initiatives, but how is that impacting really your talent development itself? I know there is part of the project work, and through putting them together, there is that that skilling. But are you seeing something additional you're doing on top of it? Because the context is more of building talent, right? So from that aspect, what's the nuance?
I think it is all embedded in there, right? So who does this engagement with the startups? It's our people, right? It is part of their development journey. That it is not that I am going and talking to the startups. It is the larger organization. There are probably 150 odd people who would be engaged in this whole startup ecosystem work, and that is where the learning and talent development comes up. So like I was saying, that when we are solving problems, leveraging whatever ecosystem is it, our people are deeply involved in that solving for the problem, and that is where the learning comes up. And the second piece which I was talking about is more for the larger audience, where we bring in outside in views on how to look at problem solving totally differently, how to look at design thinking, how to look at these aspects which are for everybody. From our vantage point, we do talent development we have a three-pronged approach to that. So one is talent development for everyone. And this is the superset that, everyone in GSK, what are the talent development needs for them? And startups is a part of it. We identify the people who are going to be engaged with the startups and understand and learn, and then go back and become, train the trainers kind of a thing. The second is for middle management, which is what we call as brilliant managers programs. For us, we believe if everybody in GSK deserves a brilliant manager. And then the next layer is for leaders who lead leaders, right? We call it Leading Leaders Program. So it is each one of them, these initiatives like startup engagement would cut across all these three key pillars to make sure that people get the learning through this process.
Excellent, Harpreet. So thanks for sharing that. Just a note for our audience. This is, as I mentioned, second in the series of a four-part LinkedIn Live sessions to recognize and share practices from the award winners. We have another LinkedIn Live session coming up on August 12, which will talk about forging the path for new capabilities. So how are GCCs evolving their capabilities itself to be ready for the future enterprise and the business evolution that the enterprise is going through? So interesting session. Again, a lot of best practices. Just wanted to call that out for the audience. You will see the registration link for that event, which will again be hosted by Everest and NASSCOM, and with some other GCC panelists, the award winners joining the session. So feel free to register. At this point, let me take some questions. I think we have lots coming up, and I think we will be on top of the hour soon. So maybe we'll make it a rapid fire panelists. So let me bring up some questions and see if there's anyone who may want to address that. One of the things we are talking about is a number of reports talk about that GCCs have a set of hires that is not going well than what is expected. How do you ensure that the first initial hires land well and lends credibility to the HQ, especially when you're bringing a new function, process, capability to the GCC? The initial set of people, how do you make sure that they land well? Any good practice
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I would like to take this question, because what we've been doing at our GCC is that we typically, when we know that a new portfolio is coming into the India GCC, we go and hire the leadership upfront. So whenever obviously it's a 1 year roadmap or 2 years roadmap, but we ensure that the leader, I either taken from within the organization or from external, getting that leader is extremely important to get the remaining part of that portfolio into the GCC. And that has
Hmm.
been a big success for us, whether in the infrastructure area, whether in the digital or many other,
Hmm.
or data for that matter, getting a leader so that the stakeholders out there in the other side of the world are confident that this leader can take it forward. So, absolutely,
Hmm.
that is a practice and it has worked very well for us so far.
Excellent. Thanks,
If,
Sharda. We have a question from Nikhil
so one,
around
sorry, Ashish,
how
if
would
I,
GCC.
sorry,
Please,
Ashish,
Yeah,
if
please.
I
sure,
may.
sure, please. Go ahead.
Sure, sorry. I think completely aligned with what you said, Sharda. We have the same thing, but the only one thing that I would say, probably differently based on what the question was, not based on what Sharda said. We don't do that to get credibility with HQ. We consider ourselves HQ, so we do that to build credibility for ourselves and
Good
make sure we
point.
are set up for success for GSK, not for HQ. So just wanted to say that.
Exactly.
Anyway, move on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, great point. Nikhil, you asked about a question around how are GCs evolving from cost centers to innovation hubs. We have a whole LinkedIn Live series. The previous session that we conducted is all about innovation at scale. So, I would encourage you to look at that. Let me get to the next question, which is around from Mahesh MS. With rapid upskilling demands, how are GCCs balancing internal talent development versus hiring externally for future ready roles?
If I can, if I may start,
Sure.
and then please, other panelists, please add on. I think it's always a balance, right? So we look at both internal and external. Just a data point for you. In the last year, we had 35% of roles filled internally, right? Which is one of the industry leading numbers that we see. But that doesn't mean we look for talent externally as well. So I think it is the way we approach it is right person for the right role. And more often than not, if there is somebody who's internally ready, that is our preference. But if there is somebody who's not internally ready, then we go externally. It all depends upon what is the need for, or what are the core skills that are needed for the role. We are now shifting into being a more skill based organization, and as we become more skill based organization, I believe this number will significantly increase. But that is how we look at acquiring talent, as I'm sure everybody else does too.
Yeah, I would agree, Ashish. It's not about either or; it's an and it's about being clear about where you want to go external to hire talent, which you may not necessarily have internal capabilities or the capacity. Frankly, the rate at which GCCs are growing, it's impossible to actually meet all your talent needs from within itself, right? So there is bound to be opportunities to go out and hire to simply keep pace with the demand for work that is coming in. Now, having said that, for what capabilities you need to go externally, what capabilities can you build from within. Most organizations today are going out to hire for skills that are rapidly evolving, changing, which they don't necessarily have a foundation within, right? So at least initially you build that capability acquired from the market, and then you sort of grow it internally. I think that's probably what most GCCs would do today. In addition to manage, hiring for entry level talent from campuses for future requirements.
Got it. Thanks. Can we take a few more questions? I know we're on top of the hour, but is everyone comfortable taking a couple of more questions?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So we have Jay who's talked about the unsustainability of lateral hiring and how are GCCs bringing the campus hiring into their calculations from cost and all the commitments. So is anyone
So,
are you seeing more of campus versus lateral?
yeah. Let me take that, and maybe others can add. But yeah, definitely we are following that same model. I think when we started the GCC, it was a lot of lateral hiring, which we took at lead level or leadership level and so on. But as we started developing mass, we started, and every year we hire from various campuses. And like I said in the beginning, it is all about how do I develop, and it's all a correlation to some of the earlier questions which were asked in terms of how do you build leadership into the organization 5 years down the line. If there have been campus hires whom I've taken 3 years back or 4 years back, why not have these as nurture them and the people with good
Hmm.
potential, have them as leaders in the organization. So, the pyramid is all about that, right? And we all follow that kind of a pyramid, and that is where it helps us to manage the cost. It also helps us to continuously manage the operations, I would say, to in order to manage the cost. But it's all a part of the regular evolution which we are following, and which has been in principle been seen and experienced over the years, that that is the best model to have. And this will continue to remain in our whole ecosystem of campus hiring, building that entire layer, and building future leaders from this layer of the employees who join us from campuses.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. We have another question around another alternative source of talent, which is your outsourcing vendor partners. So, question from Vivek Krishnan around the distribution between GCC workforce and the outsourcing or the vendor partners. How do you see that evolving over the years?
So if I may take that, Ashish, we have spotted this as a trend in our landscape report also. That often about 5 years back or so, there was always a competition between the GCC and the service providers. I think that is now evolving into a more a partnership model, a symbiotic relationship as we call it, because I think both have its own advantages and niche place, right? So when you really need to scale up a functionality or a capability in a very short period of time, it's quite natural that you would need a partner who can help you do that, right? So there are multiple such examples where there are niche places, and if you are doing something which is very IP driven, where it's core to your business, then you would want to retain that talent and knowledge. So I think we should not be talking about a competition or a race between GCCs and service provider. We should be looking at how do we increase this partnership and collaboration between the two partners. And that's where you see the rise of the GCC as a service model.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And I
Preeti, you want
think
to add?
GCs will continue to have this in their model. Vendor ecosystem is here to stay, however big or small the GCCs are.
Yeah, yeah. One point I think we have a question from Santana talked about culture, and so when we see in the current multi-generational workforce, how do you create the connection with the employees, especially when a lot of reports talk about employees being disconnected from the organization, and so any thoughts or interesting practices that one may be doing?
Look, I
I
think.
can. Sorry, go ahead,
Sorry,
please.
go ahead, Ashish.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that this has been one of the key areas for focus for us ever since we started, right? And it is not one thing that I can tell you is culture doesn't happen automatically, right? That integration of culture doesn't happen automatically. It requires intent. It requires a purpose. It requires a focus from the leadership and top down as well as bottoms up. So what we did was, as we started our GCC, this was one of the big questions that were coming up. If we are setting up a GCC, how will that align with the culture? So you need a hook, right? So for us, the hook has always been the purpose of the organization. So how do you ensure that hook, that purpose of the organization, is then embedded in the larger organization? What we did was we took a year-on-year journey around embedding the culture or making sure everybody understands the culture. So year one was all about understand. We call it understand the culture. This was a strategic program that was driven. It was not an HR program. It was a leader-led program, functional leader-led program, to ensure that everybody understands the culture. And this became a big part of onboarding. This became a big part of doing your job. This became a big part of all town halls. Everything was about understanding. The next was embedding the culture. So once you understand, then we specifically curated sessions where leaders would actually show that how you react or act. Our town halls or sessions around fireside chats were on how do you showcase somebody living the culture so that people can understand what does living the culture mean, or rather embedding the culture mean. And then the year three onwards, it is living the culture, which is we do it as a part of our day-to-day job. So we were very, very focused and very, very thoughtful about how do we make sure that there is no one GCC culture. It is one GSK culture, right? Whenever we visit any other office of GSK or somebody comes and visits us, it's just one GSK culture all around. And so it has to be intentful and it has to be done with a lot of leadership behind it. Otherwise, there are many chances that it can fall through the cracks.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have a lot of questions, so I'm just trying to see if there are any. A lot of them we have answered during the conversation itself, but let me see if there is anything else. Big, you know. So one of the things is future-proofing workforce. Of course, we are talking of skills here and now. One of the questions is around. From Mahinder Sharma around skills becoming obsolete in 3 to 5 years. So, anything? Does anyone have a view into the future 3 to 5 years forward and building something today, or do we believe that it's too hard uh,
See,
to
I'll
kind
provide
of prepare for
a
that
perspective on
far in
that.
the future?
Yeah, I'll provide a perspective on that, Ashish, which is less to do with what type of skills, hard or soft, that you should be prioritizing, right, from a development standpoint. But it's really about embedding a culture of continuous learning in the organization. And if you have that ability to constantly look at adapting to trends, to have that learning agility, right, in the organization that brings learning to where you are, rather than having to put employees through curriculums or courses, etc., that are at the cost of their day jobs. It becomes a little more cumbersome, long drawn, and more complicated to have a workforce that is agile and adaptive, right? So I think, to me, leadership prioritizing continuous learning and embedding a culture of continuous learning for agility is extremely important for future proofing the workforce. And if you have that as, I think, a building block in managing learning and development, you can pretty much make sure that whether it is generative AI today or something else, that agentic AI, etc., you can always make sure that the workforce is upskilled and relevant to the needs of the business tomorrow.
Yeah, but I
Thanks, Amit.
think this technology is completely going to change. Who spoke about agentic AI or Gen AI maybe 15 years back? It was all about SMAC. I remember talking about social, mobile, and analytics and cloud. And today it is all about AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, and so on. So I think it's just going to be an evolution, and we have to just keep in touch with the technology which is evolving and the industry. And that's the only way
So,
to.
Ashish, to add to that, I think we have been tracking this future of work quite year on year, and there are two reports, one in 24, and we have done one. So I think there are various. I completely agree with what Amit said. Continuous learning has to be the core of any organization. Adaptability, but I'll encourage everyone to go through those reports, because it talks about how the culture and how the work practices and the workplace itself will evolve with the Zen Alpha hitting the workforce in probably 5 to 7 years in coming times. How do organization need to adapt and change to this new hybrid model that we talked about earlier, where while human will be in the center, but technology will have a lot of play. So these are some interesting trends, how emerging. And we had questions about how in GCCs there could be more, instead of lateral hires, more campus hires. So all those things are interesting trends are being spotted there in those reports.
I've
Yeah,
been
no,
seeing
thanks,
a
Anish. Those are
video.
good
Sorry,
ones.
one last point. Einstein's one quote, which said that in a few years, in some years, technology will be at the fingertips of people, and I think that is what we have reached that stage today. So I think there's no looking back, and the future is just going to evolve.
Right, right, right. So I think a lot of questions still, but I think we've kind of addressed most of the themes, if not very specific questions, and we can keep the conversation going on. But before we wrap up for today, let me ask one question to all the three, at least to Sharda, Amit, and Harpreet, from their practitioners' experience, and again a one-line answer that whatever comes to your mind. So if you were to go back 3 years in when you look at the talent development programs initiative for skilling upskilling, what is that one thing that you could have done differently to land at a better place today? Any thoughts or key learning?
Yeah, probably. hire for potential, not necessarily for the credibility or credentials. I think that's what seems to be right and apt for today and tomorrow, which we didn't do in the
Learnability, as we call it, as a big skill, right? Agility in learning. Okay, Amit, how about you?
So I think, see, from my experience, Ashish, what I've generally seen is that in leadership development journeys, whatever they might be, we tend to over-index sometimes on, the functional experience, technical experience, and everything that goes with making, leaders that are more proficient in their craft, right? I mean, those are important. I'm not underestimating the value of doing that. But I think increasingly, what's becoming more and more evident is for GCC leaders to be deeply embedded in the business. And I think if I had to redo some of the journeys that we've embarked on, I would actually prioritize understanding of the business over everything else there. And I think that is further validated when we talk today about all the research on GCCs becoming innovation hubs, becoming partners in enterprise transformation, leading the next wave of innovation, etc., etc. Right. So I think that can only happen if you have a group of leaders who really understand the business and what it is that we're trying to do over everything else. So, just getting that part of the journey figure more prominently in their development is something that I would probably do different.
Excellent point, Amit. Thanks. Harpreet, how about
I
you?
mean, just a lot has been said, which I wanted to, but I think I'll add a couple of points. So one, I think looking for enterprise mindset from the word go, because I think the evolution of GCCs requires an enterprise mindset. Sometimes, to Amit's point, we over-index on the technical skills, but not on the mindset. So especially the enterprise mindset. And second, I think if I were to do this all over again, I would probably speed to market is what I'll focus on. There are certain training programs, learning programs that we brought in a little late in the game because we are focused on setup, startup. I would do that. I would probably bring it sooner than we did.
Awesome. Thanks, Harpreet, and thanks all the panelists. This was a wonderful session. I know we went overboard with the time and a lot of questions, and I really appreciate your generous time. The fact that you gave some specific examples from the GCCs to bring out the learnings, that was really appreciated. So thank you once again, the panelists, and thanks to our audience for being very participative and interactive today and staying with us for so long. Thank you so much. Really appreciate. Look forward to having more such sessions in the future. We have one coming up on August 12th on creating new enterprise capabilities. So do feel free to register for that, and we see you again soon. Thank you and have a good rest of the day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Shilpa.
Hey Ashish, hey Anish. Yeah.
Hi, hi. I think Ashi's screen stuck. And now we can hear
Uh,
you, Ashi.
Yes. Any feedback, reactions to that?
No, no, great session, great discussion. But how many attended, Shilpa? You would be able to see that?
Yeah, so I think earlier we've got
Can
just
you bring in Shrika? Can you bring in Siddharth also, Shilpa?
yes, just a minute, just allow me a minute.
I think he was seeing this from the outside. He was pinging me, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Hey,
So it was
are we
quite
still live,
amazing.
Shilpa? Are we still live?
Sorry?
No, 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 no.
It
No, no, no,
shows
no, no.
just.
We're not live. No,
No, the
Are you sure?
just
banner on the left corner says live. That's why I think
no, no,
Ashish
no.
is.
It's it's over. It's over. He's just joining in a
Okay.
minute. Yeah.
Because somehow the ticker on the top says live, and
Yeah.
it says the time also. Okay, you know better.